Hi everyone, it's Tony. Welcome back. Today we are going to talk about my journey with melanoma. I was sadly had melanoma, and if you notice my spot on my nose, we're not sure what that one is yet, but had that frozen on Friday. It's, I don't know, 5 days later, and it's so lovely, but so I didn't put on any makeup because I have this spot on my nose and I didn't want to cover it with makeup. But anyway, and those of y'all that are children of the 80s like I am, I'm sure you were a sun worshiper. You know, the whole baby oil and iodine, that we all did with our aluminum foil to get sun on our face. I also swam. I was a swimmer. I was on a summer league team, and I also coached for many years. So I spent many a time in a bathing suit on the side of a pool. And I was not diligent about putting on sunscreen or suntan lotion. And if I did put on suntan lotion, it was SPF 2 or SPF 4. And I would also spray on the accelerator before I would put on my SPF, which really, how stupid is that? I was never really a tan in bed girl, though. I will say I never really did. I did do it, but I wasn't, it was if I was going on a trip. I was never a big tanning bed person. So, in March of 2018, I had a mole show up on my collarbone, and it was growing pretty quickly, and it was kind of odd shaped, and warning sign, go get that checked out. So I made an appointment with the dermatologist, and I also scheduled a full body scan because, at the time I was 46-ish, and I'd never had my whole body looked at. So I scheduled that, and I'm in there in the appointment, and she looks at the thing on my conscience. She's like, oh, that's, I forget what she called it. She froze it, the spray stuff that hurts like son of a gun. There was, I don't know, like 5 places she did that too. And then she, she's looking at my, all your face, your scalp, your head, what your arms, they feel your face, but totally beside the point. She picks up my right calf and she looks at it, and then she puts it down and she picks it back up. And she's like, how long has that spot been there? I'm like, didn't know there was a spot there. I have so many freckles and age spots and everything. And, like I said, grew up on the side of a pool. So, I don't notice stuff on the back of my calf. So she's like, well, let's go ahead and take a cutting of it, and then we'll send it in to get looked at. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. And it's at the bottom, where your muscle comes down. I don't know if it's the soleus or the gastroc. And then it's right at the bottom of that muscle, like up from my ankle, but, probably, I don't know, maybe 2 inches up from my ankle on the back. And so she calls me a couple days later, and she's like, Tony, this is Dr. Leese. And I'm like, crap, because it's never good when the doctor calls you herself. And she's like, we got the results back from your lab. And I honestly didn't hear what she said. She's like, we need to go ahead and schedule you for surgery. And I'm like, what? And we need to go ahead and get you in so we can scan your lymph nodes. I'm like, oh crap. Because keep in mind, remember, my mom had breast cancer, and I know when they're looking at your lymph nodes, it's not a good thing. It means, they need to make sure that it hadn't spread. So I'm like, oh man. So the next day, so they send me over, get an appointment for the next day, get my lymph nodes looked at. And I walk in, and she's washing her hands, and she looks back at me. She's like, Tony, did you spend all night on the internet last night after I got off the phone with you? And I'm like, tell you the truth, I don't even know what you told me I have. Do I have this? And I'm looking at a poster on the wall. Do I have this basal cell carcinoma? Because my dad has a lot of those. And she's like, oh no, honey, you've got melanoma. You've got cancer. And I'm like, what? And so I remember, like, just total shock. And so they do my, scan, and everything's fine with my lymph nodes or whatever. And then they send me to I think it's a dermatological surgeon, a dermatology surgeon maybe, at Baylor College of Medicine there in the Med Center. And they schedule me they do the surgery right there in the room. So it's obviously you're not getting put under and all that sort of stuff. They numb it. And so anyway, Joe goes with me, and my friend Angie goes with me, and we go in there. And keep in mind, this is March of 2018. Our house flooded in August of 2017. So we're still living on the second floor of the building at the office in the gym. Okay, so we've got mattresses on the gym. Smith machine is our closet. You know, we've got stuff everywhere. Living on the second floor, 23 steps up. So anyway, she goes in and she's like, you know, we like to take, I don't know, so half a centimeter each direction and deep. But she looks at my leg, she looks at it, and she's like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get this to close because of the location of it. And I'm like, that doesn't sound good, you know? And so anyway, I can't see her the way I'm sitting. I can't see what's going on. And she does it and she has to do a flap. So she cuts up into the calf muscle, takes a strip, flips it down, and then sews it in the circle. And so I have like, it kind of looks like a line with the circle at the bottom of it. And she's like, I can't promise you this flap is going to live, but, you know, just make sure, you know, you keep it, you know, keep the medicine on it, whatever. And she goes, now let's go over the things you can't do. You can't run, you can't exercise, you can't climb stairs, you can't drive, you can't do this, you can't do that. And I'm like, wait a second, I can't climb stairs? And she's like, no. And I'm like, well, what am I going to do? I live on the second floor, you know, on the second floor. And she's like, well, you're going to have to make arrangements or, you know, and I'm like, oh my God. And so I'm like, what am I going to do? And I'm like pretty distraught over this because keep in mind, I am living in a gym on a mattress on the floor. Okay. So we get in the car and we're driving home and I'm going through all of this with Joe and I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. So in our office, we have a couch in the conference room. And so I'm like, well, just bring me a pillow and a blanket out here and I'll just sleep on the couch. I said, and just shut the conference room door and we'll text the guys and let them know that I'm asleep in the conference room because, you know, I can't go up the stairs because you can't, you know, when you walk, the skin stretches on the back of your calf. And so because of the way the flap was done, I couldn't stretch. And I wasn't allowed to walk for a week, wasn't allowed to drive for like 4 weeks. And so I'm like, this. So anyway, I was like, this sucks. You know, this. So bless Joe's heart. He goes and gets an air mattress. We had an air mattress. And the downstairs of the building is like a machine shop downstairs and a gym upstairs. So he builds me a platform of plywood, puts the air mattress on the top of it. And you know those big rolly toolboxes with all the drawers? He pushes that up to the thing. So that's my headboard. I'm using a CNC machine for a nightstand, and I'm sleeping on an air mattress on a stack of plywood. Like, seriously, that's what I'm doing. So do that, and I'm having to doctor it, and it was just gross. I mean, well, then the flap ends up dying, and then I have to go back in because the flap died, so now I've got an open sore. In the end, y'all, that little bitty spot that was about the size of the tip of a ballpoint pen took 10 weeks and 3 days for it to close. 10 weeks, 3 days. I didn't drive for about 6.5 weeks. I couldn't drive. I lived on that air mattress for 5 weeks until the house was done. It was a complete and utter nightmare. Like, I couldn't go anywhere. If someone didn't drive me somewhere, I couldn't go. So I went days and never left the piece of property. And, you know, now that we're living in this whole COVID thing, I swear, like, God prepared me for this, like for the cancer, the breast cancer, and for COVID, because I had to do all this before 2 years ago. So anyway, it ended up being, I think it was stage 0 in situ. I think, I'm not positive about that. But anyway, last week I go to get my shot, and the nurse practitioner comes in and I'm talking to her and she's like, what's that on your nose? And I'm like, what? And it was just a little raised spot and it was still skin colored. It wasn't anything. And she's like, we didn't know if it was rubbing from wearing a mask. And I'm like, I've been wearing a mask since November. I'm pretty sure it's not wearing. So she started asking me a couple of questions. I said, well, you know, I had melanoma. And she's like, oh, you need to go to the dermatologist. So I go to the dermatologist and we're talking and she's like, well, let's freeze it first. And then we'll see if it comes back. If it comes back, then, because she doesn't like to cut on people's noses. She goes, if it comes back, then we'll have to. And I'm like, really? Really? So now, as you can see, I have this lovely spot on my nose. I look like the Wicked Witch of the West with this lovely pimple. But it's not. It's a blister, you know. So Anyway, the moral of the story is, y'all, if you were ever a sun worshiper or if you ever were tanning beds, go and get looked at, because I'm telling you, mine was the size of the tip of a ballpoint pen. That's how small it was. I would have never seen it. I mean, y'all, I have freckles and I have age spots and all that sort of stuff, but just make sure you get checked. And if you have any like rough spots on your face, like, you know, asymmetrical rough spots, get those checked also. But do your due diligence, like everybody, boys and girls, go and just do a baseline body scan. That's all you have to do. And girls, since we're on the subject, make sure you get your mammogram. So anyway, that's kind of what's been going on with me. It's been kind of rough, but you know, life is going on, and I'll live through this. You know, this is not going to kill me. It's just another little bump in the road, or as my surgeon said it, Tony, it's just another blip on the radar of life. So anyway, it's my public service announcement to go get your body scanned. I hope y'all have a nice day. Bye.